The beauty of democracy is the constant connect with the people.
The hall was quiet, the cameras rolling, and the world waiting. It was a historic moment that nobody had expected. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, sitting across from Ibrahim Traoré, the young president of Burkina Faso. On the surface, it looked like another diplomatic dialogue between two leaders. But what unfolded was not about politics, trade, or security. It was something deeper, a conversation about faith, philosophy, and humanity. Modi leaned forward with the calmness of a man who had seen both turmoil and triumph. His voice carried both authority and humility as he began to speak. President Traore, he said, so much of the conflict in our world today comes from misunderstanding. We divide ourselves into Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jew, Buddhist, and then we weaponize these differences. But if you strip away the labels, the essence of religion is not division. It is truth. It is light. It is Dharma, the eternal law that governs all. Ibrahim Traoré, known for his defiant words against global injustice, sat silently, absorbing every word. This was not the language of geopolitics. This was something spiritual. And for once, the soldier president listened not with the intent to counter, but to learn. Modi continued. In India, we have lived for thousands of years with hundreds of faiths, countless sects, and thousands of languages. We have seen empires rise and fall, we have been invaded, we have been colonized. But what survived is the spirit of Sanatana Dharma, what the world today calls Hinduism. And do you know why it survived? Because it was never about forcing one truth upon all people. It was about recognizing that truth can take many forms. The audience watching online, spread across continents, felt the weight of his words. Modi was not just defending Hinduism. He was explaining a philosophy, one that could redefine how people viewed religion itself. He spoke of the Vedas, the ancient scriptures. He explained that they did not prescribe one God for all, nor did they demand blind allegiance. Instead, they celebrated diversity. One mantra, he said, raising his finger gently, goes like this: Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti. It means, truth is one, but the wise call it by many names. This is the foundation of Hindu thought. That God may be called Allah, Jesus, Krishna, Yahweh, or simply the universe, but the essence remains the same. Traore finally leaned forward, responding. His voice was calm but probing. Prime Minister, what you are saying resonates deeply. But tell me, if Hinduism teaches tolerance and unity, why is our world still filled with division? Why do even Hindus fight among themselves? Why do religions that claim peace still become weapons for hatred? It was a bold question, but one Traore was known for asking. Modi did not flinch. Instead, he smiled. Ah, my brother, that is the weakness of man, not the fault of God. Religion is pure when it begins. But once it becomes power, once it is used as an identity to dominate others, then it loses its purity. That is why Hinduism has never demanded conversion. You may be a Christian, a Muslim, or an atheist, and still, you can practice yoga, meditation, or read the Bhagavad Gita. Hinduism does not ask you to leave your path, it only invites you to expand your mind. The room was silent. Even the cameraman paused as if unwilling to break the sacredness of the dialogue. This was not debate. This was revelation. Then Modi shifted the tone, speaking about the Bhagavad Gita, one of Hinduism's most revered texts. In the Gita, Arjuna, a warrior, faces despair on the battlefield. He does not want to fight. He questions life, duty, morality. And Krishna, his guide, does not force him. He teaches him that every human being must find their own path of righteousness, their dharma. That is the beauty of our tradition. God does not give orders, God gives wisdom. You choose how to live it. Traoré's eyes lit up. He leaned closer and said, that sounds like liberation. But it also sounds dangerous to those who want control. No wonder colonial powers tried to erase such thinking. A people who believe they are free in spirit cannot be enslaved. Modi nodded slowly. Exactly. That is why colonizers not only conquered lands but also tried to redefine religions. They portrayed Hinduism as superstition. They portrayed Islam as extremism. They portrayed African traditions as primitive. Why? Because once you destroy a people's spiritual confidence, you enslave them forever. The young African leader clenched his fist on the table. His voice grew stronger. This is why I tell my people that true liberation is not just removing foreign troops or corrupt leaders. It is removing the chains on the mind. Our people pray but do not understand the depth of their prayers. They worship but do not understand the meaning of worship. They think freedom is only political, but it is spiritual first. The dialogue was electric. It was no longer just Modi teaching Traore. It was two leaders building upon each other's truths. Modi leaned back, his voice becoming almost poetic. Brother Traore, let me tell you something about Hinduism that many do not know. It does not deny other religions. In fact, it absorbs them. That is why we can worship in temples, but we can also honor Jesus, respect Muhammad, and bow to the Buddha. Because if truth is one, then rejecting another path is like rejecting your own reflection. He paused before delivering a line that shook the world. Religion was never meant to make us different. It was meant to remind us we are the same. The live chat on the broadcast exploded. Some cried, some cheered, some were stunned into silence. Across Africa, India, and beyond, people whispered to themselves, could this be true? Could religion really be one? Traore's reply was deep and personal. I was raised in a land where Christianity and Islam dominate, but our ancestors practiced their own ways. They spoke to God through the earth, the rivers, and the sky. They saw divinity in everything. The colonial powers told us that was paganism. But listening to you now, I realize it was no less divine. Maybe what you call Sanatana Dharma is what we call African spirituality, the idea that truth is everywhere. Modi's face brightened, and he raised his hand gently, almost as if in blessing. Yes, that is exactly what I mean. Hinduism does not see God only in temples or scriptures. We see God in rivers, in animals, in the sun, in the stars, in each human being. That is why we say Namaste. Do you know what it means? It means, the divine in me bows to the divine in you. The room erupted in applause. For once, it felt like the world was not watching politics, but a global sermon, one that united rather than divided. And then came the part that would echo for years. Modi looked directly into the camera and declared, if the world understood this one truth, that we are different rivers flowing into the same ocean, there would be no wars in the name of religion. There would be no hatred in the name of God. There would be only one family, one humanity, living under many names for the same truth. Traore placed his hand on his chest and whispered, that is the world I want for my people. That is the world I will fight for. The broadcast ended, but the conversation had only begun. The cameras returned after a short pause, and the energy in the room had shifted. What had started as a quiet dialogue now felt like the heartbeat of a global awakening. Both Narendra Modi and Ibrahim Traoré sat in silence for a few seconds, as though letting the weight of their words settle into the soul of every listener. Traoré leaned forward, his gaze firm yet thoughtful. Prime Minister Modi, he said slowly, what you shared about Hinduism has touched me. But let me ask you, if Hinduism teaches tolerance, harmony, and unity, why then does the world not hear this message more loudly? Why do global powers ignore such wisdom while pushing their own religious and political agendas? It was a question millions had in mind. Modi exhaled deeply, his face serious. Because truth without force rarely makes headlines. The world is fascinated by conflict, not harmony. They want stories of war between religions, not stories of unity. When a Hindu and a Muslim fight, it is news. But when they embrace as brothers, it is ignored. This is the tragedy of our age. Division is profitable, unity is not. Traore nodded, his eyes narrowing with recognition. That is true. In Africa too, they magnify division. They never show the world when Christians and Muslims break bread together in my country. They only show violence, as if Africa is nothing but chaos. Maybe this is why your message resonates with me. Because the way you speak of Hinduism is the same way I see Africa. Misunderstood, misrepresented, but filled with truth. Modi smiled. Exactly, brother. You understand. Hinduism has survived for over 5,000 years not by force, but by resilience. The same resilience I see in Africa. The colonizers could take your resources, but they could not kill your spirit. That spirit is divine. Traore leaned back and then, with a passion that electrified the audience, spoke of his vision. My people are awakening, Prime Minister. For centuries, we were told our traditions were backward. We were told our gods were false. We were told we had to choose between Christianity or Islam to be civilized. But what I have come to realize is that God was already among us long before missionaries or imams came. He was in the rivers, in the baobab trees, in the ancestors who prayed for rain. Just like you say in Hinduism, truth takes many forms. So why should we be ashamed of our form? The room erupted in applause. For many Africans watching, it was the first time they had seen their president speak of spirituality with such boldness on an international stage. Modi's eyes glowed with approval. President Traore, what you say is profound. Hinduism teaches that God does not only live in scriptures or temples. God is in all creation. That is why when I see your African traditions, your dances, your rituals, your music, I see God there too. The world calls it primitive because they do not understand. But to me, it is another language of prayer. Traore smiled faintly. Then maybe we are not so different after all. Maybe Hinduism and African spirituality are two brothers separated by oceans, but born from the same truth. Modi's reply was poetic. Yes, we are two rivers flowing to the same ocean, and that ocean is humanity. At this point, a journalist dared to interject. Prime Minister Modi, President Traore, if what you say is true, then why do religions still clash? Why do we see Hindus and Muslims in conflict in India? Why do Christians and Muslims clash in Africa? If all faiths are one, why does the human heart still choose division? The question pierced the air. Modi and Traore exchanged glances, then Modi answered first. Because religion is not the problem, ego is. It is not God who divides us, but men who seek power in God's name. When a man says, "My path is the only path," he does not speak for God, he speaks for himself. And yet, the people follow, because they are taught to fear. But true religion removes fear. It gives freedom. Traore leaned in, his tone fiery. Yes, this is what I tell my people. That fear is the greatest chain. When they tell us, fear God or be punished, they make us slaves. But I say, God is not a tyrant. God is freedom. God is justice. God is truth. And if your religion makes you hate your neighbor, then it is not from God. The audience was stunned. Some clapped, others sat in deep reflection. It was rare to hear leaders speak this plainly, without the filters of diplomacy. Then Modi brought the conversation to a personal note. Do you know, President Traore, why I often practice yoga and meditation every morning? It is not because I am Hindu. It is because I am human. Yoga does not belong to Hindus. It belongs to humanity. Meditation is not about religion. It is about connecting with the soul. These practices remind me that before I am a leader, before I am a politician, I am simply a man seeking truth. Traore smiled, his face softening. That is powerful, Prime Minister. In my country, I pray not only with words but also with silence. Sometimes I walk into the forest alone, and I listen to the wind. And in that silence, I feel the voice of God clearer than in any sermon. Maybe that too is yoga, though we never called it that. Modi laughed warmly. Yes, my brother, that is yoga too. Because yoga means union. Union with yourself, with the universe, with the divine. You may call it African spirituality, but it is the same essence. At this point, both leaders had gone beyond politics. They were no longer speaking as Hindu and African, but as two men peeling back the layers of humanity. Modi raised his hand and spoke with intensity. Let me tell you something about Hinduism that shocks many. We do not believe in conversion. We believe in coexistence. If you are Christian, be a good Christian. If you are Muslim, be a good Muslim. If you are African traditionalist, honor your ancestors. That is enough. God does not ask for your label. He asks for your sincerity. Traore's voice thundered in reply. Then why does the world not teach this? Why are we told we must abandon one faith for another to be saved? Why are my people told that unless they follow one path, they are damned? The Prime Minister's answer was quiet but firm. Because if they taught you the truth, they would lose control over you. A free mind cannot be colonized. A free soul cannot be bought. That is why they distort religion. But this conversation we are having, this is dangerous to them. Because if people begin to understand, they will no longer be ruled by fear. The audience gasped. It was as though both leaders had unlocked a forbidden truth. Traore then looked straight into the camera, his eyes burning with conviction. To every African listening, to every believer watching, understand this: God does not belong to one people, one book, or one temple. God belongs to all. Whether you call him Allah, Krishna, Yahweh, or the spirit of the ancestors, you are speaking to the same Creator. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. This is how we shall be free. The applause was thunderous. Online, hashtags began to trend. Hashtag One God Many Paths and hashtag Traore Modi Dialogue. Millions felt as if they had just witnessed a moment that would be studied in history books. As the conversation reached its final moments, Modi placed his hand on his heart and said, "Brother Traore, the journey of humanity is not to find the one true religion. It is to discover the truth within every religion. Hinduism is not asking you to become Hindu. It is asking you to honor the divinity that already lives in you. That is the gift I wish for the world." Traore rose to his feet, his voice solemn but strong. "And my gift is this, that Africans, too, will rise and reclaim their spiritual dignity. We will no longer see ourselves as less. We will no longer allow others to tell us who God is. We will know for ourselves. And when Africa stands spiritually free, the whole world will see the light we carry." Both men clasped hands firmly. It was more than a handshake. It was the sealing of a covenant, a promise that their words would outlive the moment. As the broadcast ended, commentators struggled to describe what they had just witnessed. Was it diplomacy? Was it philosophy? Or was it a glimpse into the future of humanity, where faith was no longer a battlefield but a bridge? Whatever it was, one thing was clear. What Narendra Modi told Ibrahim Traoré about Hinduism and how Traoré replied would indeed change the world's concept about religion.